Yoshioka Shigeru knows very well that he is a man with an unattractive face, but even then, he walks in his society with pride. He has complete confidence in his work, so whenever his boss gives him any unwanted task, he straightforwardly refuses to do it. Although no girl has ever come into his life, he has never felt the absence of one. But one day, while traveling by train, a girl falsely accused him of harassment. Because of his ugly face, the people in the train assumed he was guilty and threw him out of the train. He confesses in court just to avoid a long legal battle, thinking he can simply pay a fine and be done with it. But that's not what happens. Though the case gets closed after he pays the fine, the very next day, his boss fires him from his job. After that, Shigeru tries to find a job at many different places, but because of the case, no one hires him. Years pass like this, and he ends up becoming a shut-in, unemployed and isolated. Then, after many years, the truth about the girl finally comes out. She had a habit of falsely accusing unattractive men, simply because she found them disgusting. But since she was a minor, she was released soon after. After learning the truth, Shigeru felt completely hopeless. He was filled with rage, but there was nothing he could do. He had come to believe that this world treats people with ugly faces unfairly, and all his confidence was shattered. Shigeru had reached that point in life where all his savings were gone. He had no job, and no reason left to live. Then one day, he comes across a blog online where people shared their experiences of traveling to another world. At first, Shigeru thinks it's all just a joke. But that night, he can't sleep. And just as the clock nears 2 a.m., he stands up and begins following the exact instructions written in the blog, hoping to reach that other world. Shigeru begins to wait, and right as the clock hits 2 a.m., a strange message appears on his computer screen, an invitation to another world. Shigeru thinks it must be a virus, but still, he clicks yes. The system then asks him to fill in some details, and Shigeru sets his beauty stat to -255. Because of that, the system rewards him with 13,000 bonus attribute points. At the bottom of the screen, he sees a notes box, where he writes down several more weaknesses about himself. As a result, the system grants him a massive 100 trillion bonus points. But unfortunately, just then, the time runs out, and Shigeru gets transported to the other world before he can distribute any of the points. When Shigeru opens his eyes, he realizes that he has now become a fat and awkward-looking man. Just then, 3 people show up at his door. One of the girls starts shivering from the cold, so the guy takes off his shirt and gives it to her. Then the second girl also begins to feel cold, so Shigeru tries to offer her his shirt, but she politely refuses to take it. After that, the 3 introduce themselves. The boy says his name is Seiji, the blonde-haired girl refuses to share her name, and the third girl introduces herself as Saika. Shigeru also introduces himself to them, and then realizes that all 3 of them have come from his world. He then opens a drawer in the room and finds a coin inside. As he tries to pick it up, the coin vanishes the moment he touches it. After that, they all gather whatever supplies they can find in the room. Shigeru picks up a shirt, thinking it's way too small for him, but surprisingly it fits him perfectly. They decide to divide all the items equally among themselves. But Seiji notices that one coin is missing and starts to suspect Shigeru. Shigeru understands what Seiji is thinking and quietly refuses to take his share. Instead, he asks them for just one thing, an axe. Seeing this, Seiji starts to think that Shigeru might have communication issues. He shares that in his past life, he too struggled with communication, and in this new world, he wants to overcome that weakness. So, he encourages Shigeru to work on his as well. Eventually, they decide to play a game to divide the items fairly. In the end, Shigeru ends up with nothing but a stick. Seiji opens up the map, and they all decide to head toward the nearest town. Shigeru, though reluctant, has no choice but to go with them. But just as they open the door to step outside, they spot a goblin right in front of them. Without hesitation, Seiji strikes it down with his knife, killing it instantly. But then, they see an entire horde of goblins approaching from the distance. Seiji and the blonde girl head down to fight the goblins head-on. Shigeru and Saika are supposed to support them from behind. But Saika doesn't know how to use a bow properly, and one of the goblins charges straight at Shigeru. Shigeru strikes the goblin with all his strength, but it doesn't take any damage. Confused, Shigeru wonders why his attack did nothing. Then it hits him. Because the time ran out, he never got the chance to distribute his stat points. Shigeru gathers all his strength and strikes the goblin once more. The goblin is defeated. Suddenly, a glowing screen appears in front of him, and to his shock, he sees that his level has increased by 31 levels in one go. Seiji and the blonde girl level up as well, and they begin allocating their points to their stats. However, Seiji is unable to see their status screens. Shigeru finally starts distributing his own points, placing 1 trillion points into every single stat. The moment he completes the distribution, his entire body radiates with a blinding golden light, and the air around him trembles with power. In that instant, his class evolves into something unheard of, an almighty god. Suddenly, a goblin attacks Shigeru, but the attack has no effect on him at all. Shigeru simply taps the goblin with his finger, and the creature goes flying into the sky. Then Shigeru notices that Saika is still struggling to string her bow, and she looks visibly upset because of it. Shigeru walks up and asks her for the bow. Saika hands it to him, and Shigeru strings it with ease. Seeing this, Saika assumes Shigeru must be good at archery, so she asks him to shoot an arrow. Shigeru takes the arrow and casually selects a bow skill from his screen. He aims toward the goblin horde and fires. But instead of flying straight, the arrow shoots upward into the sky. Moments later, the sky cracks open and a massive lightning dragon comes crashing down, obliterating all the goblins in a single, blinding explosion. Saika is amazed by what she just witnessed, but Shigeru casually explains that he learned that kind of archery through practice. Just then, another goblin horde appears. Determined to help, Saika fires a flurry of arrows toward them, but none of her arrows hit their targets. They all sail right over the goblins' heads. Within moments, she runs out of arrows and stands there, disheartened and frustrated. So Shigeru uses one of his skills, and by simply touching a piece of wood, he generates a bunch of arrows. Then, he quietly places them next to Saika. As soon as Saika notices the arrows, she excitedly starts firing again, but her aim is still completely off. Meanwhile, Seiji and the blonde girl team up and take down all the remaining goblins. After that, they enter the city of Iria, where they spot a hamburger shop. The three of them eagerly head inside to grab a bite. But Shigeru doesn't go in with them. Instead, he quietly walks away, leaving them behind. Shigeru sits down near a fountain, his stomach growling from hunger. Just then, a cat walks up to him. He reaches out to pet it, but suddenly remembers that if the cat turns out to be a girl in disguise, he'll take 10% HP damage. At that exact moment, Saika suddenly shows up and startles him, causing Shigeru to fall straight into the fountain. Later, as he's wringing out his clothes and trying to dry off, Saika offers him a hamburger, as thanks for helping her string the bow earlier. Shigeru was absolutely starving, so he reaches out to take the hamburger from Saika. But by mistake, his hand brushes against hers, and in that instant, a powerful shock runs through his body. He instantly loses 10% of his HP. The damage registered as 58 trillion. Enough to wipe out every living creature on Earth. Because of all the chaos, Saika's hamburger gets completely ruined, and she gets upset. To make up for it, Shigeru compliments her beauty and apologizes sincerely, then accepts the ruined burger without complaint. But just as Shigeru is about to eat the spoiled burger, Saika stops him and offers him her own burger instead. Shigeru tries to decline, but Saika gently says, "I know you were the one who made those arrows for me." Shigeru accepts the burger, and deep inside, he feels like he now owes her something. So, he makes a decision: he will stay with her until he repays that debt. Just then, Seiji and the blonde girl arrive, and the four of them set off together on their journey. Saika and Shigeru walk into a weapon shop, where Saika buys a bunch of arrows for herself. Meanwhile, Seiji and the girl return after finding an inn to spend the night. Shigeru doesn't want to go with them because he doesn't have any money for the inn. But Saika grabs him and drags him along anyway. Luckily, thanks to his clothes, Shigeru doesn't take any damage. Lying in his room, Shigeru keeps thinking about how he's fallen even deeper into Saika's debt. He spends the whole night trying to figure out ways to earn money and repay her. The next morning, using his skills, Shigeru transforms a few wooden sticks into proper arrows. He sells them at the weapons shop and trades the money for some food items. Later, he brings the food back and offers it to the group. When Seiji asks where it all came from, Shigeru simply says someone donated it to him. The three of them enjoy the meal with smiles on their faces, and Shigeru feels a bit of relief, like he's finally paid off his debt. Seiji realizes that they need to start earning money, since monsters in this world do not drop rewards after being defeated. He pulls out a map and tells the group about a cave near the city that he wants to explore. Just then, a man offers to help them with the expedition. He claims he's also from another world, just like them. He shows them an item that gets them a discount at the inn, and then gives it to them for free. Saika happily accepts the item. But Seiji finds the man a little suspicious, so he asks for his name. The man introduces himself as Kayashiro, and says he works as a guide. Shigeru immediately grows suspicious, thinking Kayashiro might prey on newcomers, but leaves the final decision to Seiji. Seiji chooses to trust him and accepts his offer. After putting on their special helmets, the group sets out toward the Arga cave. On the way, they spot a group of goblins approaching. Just like before, Saika starts wasting her arrows. Seeing this, Kayashiro advises her to imagine that each arrow costs 10 million yen. As soon as she takes his words seriously, her arrow lands perfectly, right between a goblin's eyes. Shigeru didn't expect Kayashiro to give useful advice, but even now, he remains suspicious. Then Seiji and the blonde girl also jump into the fight. Meanwhile, Shigeru and Kayashiro sit nearby watching, as Kayashiro gives out tips like a teacher from the sidelines. Kayashiro encourages Shigeru to join the fight, but Shigeru says he has no real skill with a staff. Kayashiro tells him to keep trying, and casually mentions that the staff's final skill is said to be legendary. Shigeru already knows that, because once, outside the city, he had a close encounter with a giant orc. He tried to activate the staff's most powerful ability, but the system warned him. Everything within a 200-kilometer radius would be erased. So he cancelled the skill immediately. Kayashiro tells Shigeru he once belonged to a mercenary group. Its leader had started adventuring at the same time as Kayashiro, but went on to become the king of this land. They reach the Arga cave, which looks more like the ruins of an ancient temple. Inside, they spot jagged rocks hanging from the ceiling. Saika gets excited seeing them. But Kayashiro warns her to be careful, which annoys her. Shigeru begins to wonder about Saika's real age. Seiji suddenly asks her directly, and she casually says she's 17, surprising Shigeru as her behavior is childish. As they venture deeper, they're attacked by a group of megabats. After defeating them, they find a large door deep within the cave. Saika eagerly tries to open it, but Kayashiro warns her. That's the boss room, who can kill her easily. Seiji thanks Kayashiro for guiding them, but before leaving, Kayashiro tells them about a special event. He leads them to a door, explaining it's a safe spot, where no monsters or magic can enter. But Shigeru already knows, based on earlier system warnings, that there are no real safe spots near Iria City. Still, he stays quiet and follows the others inside. Inside, they find cold drinks and chips arranged neatly. Kayashiro says they were prepared as a welcome gift. But Shigeru can tell, they've been drugged. Seiji refuses to accept the food and drinks. So Kayashiro pretends to be hurt, acting disappointed. Seiji feels guilty for his rude behavior and apologizes. Kayashiro forgives him and offers the drinks again. And they all eat and drink happily. Shigeru wants to cast an antidote spell, but he's afraid they'll notice. So he tries to stall them with small talk. He asks them about their lives before coming to this world. The question brings a moment of silence, then Seiji opens up. He left home during school and started a company called Success Life. Hearing that, Shigeru recalls meeting the company's CEO, who looked just like Seiji. Seiji shares a story. A salesman he called Mr. Y once tried selling him a costly machine. When Seiji tried bargaining, Mr. Y sold it cheap, advising him to make decisions with a cool head. That advice stayed with him, and soon his company grew big. But after one major project failed, the company collapsed. Many people were affected, and that guilt made Seiji vow. In this world, no one will suffer because of him. He then mentions that Mr. Y's real name was also Shigeru, and asks Shigeru for his full name. Shigeru realizes Seiji is talking about him, but gives a fake name. Soon after, the others fall unconscious due to the drug, but Shigeru only pretends. Kayashiro returns with his men and starts chaining everyone with iron shackles. Shigeru thinks it's time to use his power. But Seiji suddenly stirs awake. Not wanting to reveal his strength just yet, Shigeru holds back. Seiji tries to resist, but Kayashiro's men slam him against the wall. By now, Seiji has understood Kayashiro's true nature. He kidnaps newcomers and sells them. The thought fills Seiji with fury. Kayashiro sends his men to capture him. But Shigeru jumps in and saves Seiji just in time. He tells Seiji to fall back. But Seiji refuses to leave him behind. Seiji assures Shigeru that he's strong enough to knock him out in one punch. Shigeru doesn't believe him, and continues attacking Kayashiro's men on his own. While Seiji is still explaining, some enemies grab and restrain Shigeru. This enrages Seiji. His right hand begins to glow with light. He had written a vow in his note box. "I'll never let my friends suffer again." That vow had granted him bonus points, and with those points, he unlocked this powerful skill. Seiji tells Kayashiro to leave, but Kayashiro refuses, still confident he can win. Shigeru gets worried since Seiji hadn't put a single point into defense. So when Kayashiro attacks with the sword, Shigeru blocks the blow using his chains, and then shields Seiji with his own body, taking all the hits. Seiji tells Shigeru to back off. But Shigeru refuses, standing firm to protect him. Then Seiji activates his skill, and in a burst of holy light, transforms into a glowing angelic form. He calls this form Aldine. Kayashiro is completely shocked to see Seiji's transformation. Seiji goes in to punch him, but suddenly stops midway. He doesn't want to punish Kayashiro himself. He wants to hand him over to the law. Seiji tells him to give up the path of crime. Kayashiro lowers his sword and bows his head. Seeing this, Seiji turns to leave. But just then, Kayashiro grabs his sword again and charges to attack from behind. However, Shigeru falls in his way, tripping him and stopping the attack. Kayashiro's men start kicking Shigeru, but he doesn't feel any pain. Then he throws his nose hair against the wall, causing it to break. Then, he points Seiji's fist toward the broken wall and tells everyone that Seiji punched through it. Seiji is surprised by this claim, but Shigeru confidently convinces him that he really broke the wall, and Seiji believes him. Kayashiro and his men are left stunned when they see the hole in the wall. Immediately, they bow and apologize to Seiji. Kayashiro promises to leave the path of crime, but Shigeru doesn't trust him. So, he lines all of them up and asks Seiji to use his special attack on them. Seiji doesn't want to use his special attack on them, so Shigeru suggests he just slap them instead, because he wants these people to understand the pain they've caused others. Seiji agrees, realizing Shigeru has a point. But for this, he transforms back into his true form. Then, one by one, he slaps each of them across the face. Then they tie up Kayashiro and his men with ropes. But Seiji faints due to the effects of the drug. Seeing this, Kayashiro once again gets a wicked idea. He tries to lure Shigeru into joining his gang. But Shigeru doesn't fall for his words. Instead, he breaks the shackles on his hands like they're just toys, leaving everyone around him terrified. Then Shigeru walks over to Seiji and begins to take care of him. Shigeru hands over Kayashiro and his men to the police, for which he receives a big reward. He brings the money back to the group, and everyone is overjoyed to see it. Seiji asks the girls to take a share from the reward too, but they refuse, saying they were unconscious during the fight and don't deserve it. They assumed Shigeru was also lying around doing nothing like them. But Seiji explains that Shigeru protected him like a shield. So he insists that Shigeru also take his fair share. Shigeru knows that the moment he touches the money, it will vanish, because he had reduced his earnings by 10,000 times inside the notes box. But he also wants to repay Saika's debt. So, he expresses his wish to give his share to someone else. However, Seiji assumes that Shigeru simply doesn't want the money, so he divides it into 4 parts, and tries to give Shigeru his share. But when Shigeru refuses to take it, Saika steps in and suggests she keep his share safe with her. Seiji doesn't like the idea. He knows Saika has a habit of spending money on unnecessary things. Still, Shigeru agrees to give his share to Saika, and in doing so, he finally pays off his debt. Saika then takes Shigeru to a burger shop. When she goes to place the order, Shigeru sits there smiling to himself, thinking that soon he'll be leaving this group behind. Just then, Saika returns with the order and sets it on the table. As they start eating, Shigeru learns that this is only the second time in Saika's life she's had a burger, and she doesn't even know how to eat it properly. Then Saika shares a secret trick with Shigeru, something she discovered while setting her stats. She says she had purposely lowered her beauty stat to -16 in order to gain extra bonus points. But later, inside the note box, she wrote that she wanted to look pretty. And just like that, she became beautiful. Shigeru is shocked to hear this. He realizes he could have done the same, and made himself look like a famous superstar. But now, it's too late. There's nothing he can do about it. Saika then spots a cat on the road and excitedly says she wants to pet it. She's never seen one up close before. Shigeru casually tells her to just go for it. Saika remembers she can walk now, but her reaction leaves Shigeru confused. As Saika walks over to the cat, Shigeru excuses himself and heads to the restroom. There, he quietly begins to cry. He realizes Saika must have had disabled legs and hands in her previous life. That's why she's so inexperienced with the world around her. He worries she might become an easy target because of her lack of social awareness. With his heart heavy, Shigeru prays for God to protect her, only to suddenly remember he is an almighty God. So he makes a firm decision. He will personally ensure she becomes fully competent. When they return to the inn to meet with the others, Seiji suggests that it's time for everyone to choose an occupation. He announces that he's aiming to become a hero. Then he recommends that the blonde girl become a mage, and Shigeru an epic fighter. Saika excitedly says she wants to be a hero too, but when the roles are finalized, she ends up becoming a mage. After everyone equips their new gear, Seiji opens up a map and points to their next destination, the largest city in the region, the Principality of Valeria. With that, he wraps up the meeting. Afterward, Saika tries to bond with the blonde girl. She cheerfully asks her if she'd like to play jump rope. The blonde girl agrees, and the two of them head out together to a nearby park. Shigeru watches her from the sidelines, a soft smile on his face as he recalls how she ended up with that rope in the first place. They had gone together to buy a proper weapon for a mage, but Saika's eyes lit up the moment she saw a pair of nunchucks hanging on the wall. Shigeru, worried she might hurt herself with something so dangerous, so he pointed to the jump rope hanging right next to the nunchucks and told the shopkeeper, "That's the one she wants." The shopkeeper said that's no ordinary rope, it's actually a supreme weapon in disguise. And just like that, Saika got herself the jump rope. Then Shigeru begins teaching Saika how to use the jump rope. And she quickly gets the hang of it. Then Saika wishes to teach this to the blonde girl, because she really wants to be her friend, and Shigeru decides to help her. From behind the bushes, Shigeru quietly watches as Saika shows the blonde girl how to jump rope. After a quick demo, she hands it over to her, and to everyone's surprise, the blonde girl does it effortlessly on her first try. Encouraged, Saika then asks for her name. But the blonde girl suddenly stops jumping and goes quiet. Shigeru assumes she doesn't want to share it. To ease the moment, Saika quickly comes up with the nickname Rize. And to her delight, the girl seems to like it. Though she doesn't say anything, she simply smiles faintly and starts jumping rope again. Suddenly, Rize jumps high into the air and lands perfectly on the ground with incredible grace. The move catches everyone's attention, and a small crowd quickly gathers around her, cheering and praising her skills. In all the excitement, everyone completely ignores Saika. Strangers begin asking Rize to join their party, while Saika stands to the side, feeling invisible. And soon she starts crying like a baby. Seeing this, Shigeru steps out from behind the bushes and walks up to support her. He tells Rize, being completely ignored hurts more than people realize. Rize says she just wanted to impress her, then she apologizes, and runs away. Shigeru takes Saika back to the inn. When they reach the door, Saika notices a small envelope lying on the floor. Curious, she picks it up and opens it. It's a letter from Rize. In the letter, Rize apologizes for what happened and thanks Saika for giving her the nickname. She says she truly wants to be her friend. Saika's eyes light up with hope, and without a second thought, she runs outside to find her. Shigeru glances around, and then calmly says, "You can stop hiding now, Rize." From behind the wall, Rize slowly steps out. She asks if she can speak to him in private, and the two of them go into a nearby room. Then Rize suddenly drops into a full-on jumping grovel, and starts apologizing profusely. Shigeru, taken aback, asks, "Why are you doing this?" Rize reveals she knows his full name, and he is the one who helped Seiji.